Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 278. This is a continuation with Rod Courtney, and Rod is going to talk about his book, The 8 Habits of a Highly Effective Safety Culture. So now this is a part three because a continuation. Well, the first one was 268, where we talked about habit one and two. 274, where we talked about habit three and four, and today we're gonna try and strictly focus on habit five. And if we get to six, and we get to six. But with that, Rod, could you just do a little quick recap of the 8 habits, and then we'll just jump right in.
Absolutely, bud. Thanks for having me again. But as you said, so in the first episode, 268 that we did, we covered the first two habits, which are stop making safety a priority. Right? And that's kind of a little bit of clickbait there because what it means is safety is more than a priority. It's a value. The second one was to make it safe for everyone to report things. And actually, habit two is the hardest habit out of all to accomplish. So that one's probably going to take you the longest amount of time. Habit three is about making sure that operations own safety. And habit four was focusing left of zero, which is being, once you have habit one, two, and three in place, you can start to see data in your system. And then, like we explained in habit or in episode 274, you can actually start to see the accidents before they happen. And now you can really focus on the leading indicators, the left of zero stuff. So I wanted to take a little bit of extra time here in episode 278 to talk about habit five. Now, habit five is the final habit of the foundation. So habits one through five, if you do those five things, this has been proven over and over and over again with multiple companies doing this. This is a fact. If you get these five things in place, you can put any kind of safety culture you want on top of that. In full disclosure, when I wrote the book originally, when I first put it on paper, habits six and seven were all about behavior-based safety, which is, I was a big proponent of back in the day. That's what we knew. That's what we did. Today we understand that it took us as far as it can, and it might not be the best application or the best way to create safety culture. So we get more into human performance, but we'll talk about that in habit six and seven. But the idea of these five, if you do these five things, doesn't matter. You put any kind of safety program you want on top of it, and it will sustain. Absolutely will sustain. So, habit five being the foundational, we'll call it part of the foundation, habits one through five. I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time on it, so we'll spend this broadcast on that. So here's what habit five is. Habit five says stop managing people. And again, I know that's a little bit of clickbait, okay? But here's a quote that all of you can take with you. You cannot manage people. You can't. You can manage situations, you can manage processes and procedures, you can even manage outcomes sometimes. You do not manage a person. You lead a person. So at the end of the day, the word management is a noun, okay? And that's what you do with things. You manage things. The word leadership is a verb, okay? You lead people. So while your title may be manager, the idea of that title is you are managing a department. You are managing a process, a procedure, or a thing, okay? If you have people that report to you as a manager, you have to be a leader. And leadership is a skill. Okay. I get resumes all the time, David, that tell me all about the person, and I read through it. And a lot of times, and again, I used to have this in my resume, I'll be honest, and it says, I'm a natural born leader. Well, guess what? No, you're not. Okay. I mean, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone by that. Please don't take it that way. Here's what I'm saying. If you and I, David, if you were here in the great state of Louisiana with me right now, and I had a helicopter parked across the street over there, and I said, "Hey, David, why don't me and you go jump in that helicopter over there, and we're going to go for a ride for a little bit." Rod, do you have a license to fly that? No, 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 no. Have you been trained to fly the helicopter? Absolutely not. I'm a natural born helicopter pilot.
That's right.
Okay. You see what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
mean, that sounds funny, doesn't it?
yeah.
And it does, right? And I say that to people all the time and when I do keynotes. You wouldn't want to fly with me if I told you I was a natural born helicopter pilot. That doesn't make any sense to us. But being a natural born leader is just something that we accept. I'm sorry, that's not true. Okay. Leadership is a skill, right? Now, could you be better at a certain part of leadership? Absolutely. No doubt about it. But I've broken it down to 16 things that I'm going to cover in just a minute that tell you what it takes to be a leader. Okay. And I pride myself on trying every day to be a good leader. And I'll tell you now, I don't hit all 16 every day. I don't because I'm human. I just don't. But what I do is I evaluate myself enough that I can see when I'm starting to fail in certain areas. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But so being a leader, we tend to put people in positions of leadership because they're good at their job. So let's doesn't have to be safety. Let's talk about a craft person for a minute. Let's say they're a lineman. Okay. They're a really good lineman. And they've worked their way up from apprentice. Now they're a class A lineman. They're really good at their job. What do we ultimately do with the people that are really good at their job? We make them a foreman. We put them in
Yep.
charge of people now. But where we fail them is we do not teach them how to lead. We just expect them to go create a bunch of little Davids, right? And they
Mhm.
know how to do the things the way I was doing them. So now instead of having just one, we have five of us that are doing it. It doesn't work like that. We are failing our people by putting them in leadership positions and not teaching them to lead. So leadership, you can imagine an axis on a graph, and on the vertical axis, it says performance. And on the horizontal axis at the bottom, across the bottom, it says trust. Those are the two things. If I wanted to become a Navy SEAL, I would have to go to basic training, which is fat and out of shape as I am right now. I could probably make it through Navy basic training still today. But you go up to usually around Chicago. There's a couple other places, but you'll go through basic training, 6 to 8 weeks of training. You'll have to go to some type of an A school. Go learn how to steer a boat or how to, fix a washing machine. I don't know. You're going to go to some kind of little school. Now, depending on your contract, you can go straight from that into special warfare, or you may have to spend some time in the fleet and then earn your spot in special warfare. But either way, you get to the point at some point in your career, you want to be a Navy SEAL, you're going to end up in Coronado, California. Coronado is famous for doing BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training. And when you go through that, most of us picture in our minds the carrying of the logs and the doing sit-ups in the surf and being all sandy and staying up for days on end and all that's what we visualize when we think about buds. And while that is part of it, that is only 1 week of a 6 month training program that we see on the movies, because what we're visualizing in our head is what's called hell week. And don't get me wrong, all 6 months of buds is torture. All right, it's very, very hard. But the point is that you're only privy to about a week of what it takes to get through that. So let's say I make it through basic, I make it through A school, and I make it to Coronado, and I make it all the way through buds. That's 6 months of training. So now most people believe, well, great, they're going to pin a trident on my chest, and now, hoorah, I'm a Navy SEAL. No, sir, you're not. Now you're going to get assigned to a unit. All right, you're going to go to a team. The even number teams are on the East Coast. The odd number teams are on the West Coast. So depending on where you go, when you get there, you'll sign into your team. Now you have another 6 months worth of training that you have to go through. And it's called SQT, SEAL Qualification Training. You go through SQT. And so if you think about BUDS as the getting your bachelor's degree and being a Navy SEAL, think about SQT as getting your master's degree. Okay. So now you have to go learn all the cool SEAL stuff, right? All the, clearing rooms and blowing stuff up. And that's where you learn that part of it. So I've had to go through basic and A school and BUDS and now SQT. I'm a year and a half into my career before they will ever even potentially penetrate on me. Now, let's say hypothetically I made it through that. Now I'm a Navy SEAL and I have the trident. Everybody knows now today of what SEAL Team 6 is. SEAL Team 6 is also known as DevGru or the development group. And the truth is, SEAL Team 6 was created back in Vietnam. And Richard Marcinko, the guy that created it, created SEAL Team 6 because there were only two SEAL teams. And he wanted the Vietnamese to think that we had more SEALs than we actually did. So he created SEAL Team 6, thinking they'll think we have 6 teams. Well, as it turns out, now we have many more than 6, but SEAL Team 6 is still designated as the development group. And it is, if you want to be a member of SEAL Team 6, first you have to spend 5 years as a SEAL. Then you have to go on at least 2 deployments. There's about a year workup, 18 months sometimes workup, and then a 6-month deployment. So you have to do these at least twice. After that, if your commanding officer thinks that you'd make a good member, he will recommend you to be a member of SEAL Team 6. Then the members of SEAL Team 6 have to say, yeah, I think I want David Ayers to be a member of my special group. Okay. Now you get selected to go to SEAL Team 6. You don't get to operate with them yet. You have to go through, because SEAL Team 6 is broken into colored teams. There's blue team, red team, gold team, black squadron, and so on. But there's one called green team. Green team is the tryout team. You get to spend, and we think it's about a year. Not 100% sure, but about a year you spend on green team. Now, if you already have your master's degree in being a SEAL, you're about to get your doctorate. Okay? So now you're going to get a PhD in being a badass. All right? So you spend the next 12 months. And if you make mistakes, you're gone. They don't want you. So think about the extremely minute percent of people that make it through green team and all it took to get there. So here's my point. Can we agree that Navy SEALs, especially those on SEAL Team 6, are absolutely some of the best leaders in the world? They know how to lead other people. They're very, very technically competent. So here's why I say that. Remember the axis we were talking about, performance and trust. Okay, so now what happens is, if I pass green team, do I get to now say I'm a member of SEAL Team 6? No, because that axis I just told you about actually gets handed to every current member of SEAL Team 6, because they've been working with you for the past year. Now, if you can imagine that axis, and in the bottom left corner of this graph, it says, I'm trying to remember now. Low performance, low trust. All right. So you have low performance, low trust, medium performance, medium trust, high, and so on. Right. So you can kind of picture what the graph looks like. In the top right corner is a high performer, high trust. In the bottom right corner, that would be trying to picture myself, a low performer, high trust. So you can see low performer, low, medium, low, high, medium, and so on. So if you're looking at that 9 square graph now, what's going to happen is the members of SEAL Team 6 are going to grade you, and they're going to give you a score. And think about it like this. Performance is, I trust you with my life. The trust axis is, I trust you with my wife. or I trust you with my bank account, right?
Hmm.
So, as they're grading you, David, and now you've made it through all this hardcore training, you're one of the baddest individuals on the planet, but they don't want you on their team unless you can perform to their level and they can trust you. So they're going to score you. Now, on that graph we were just talking about, obviously there's one person on there nobody wants on their team, and that's a low performer, low trust. Nobody wants that person. So let's just take them off. If you score there, you're not going to make it onto SEAL Team 6. So, but there's one person on this graph that everybody wants. That's that high performer, high trust, right? If you land up there, let's just be honest, that's a unicorn, okay? You don't find those very often.
Hmm.
Now, if we go just to the left of the high performer, high trust in the graph, that's a high performer, but medium trust. Would you want that person on your team? I would.
Yeah.
Let's look at the bottom right corner, low performer, but high trust. Let's look at the top left corner. That's a high performer, low trust. So let's think about that one for a second. Top left corner, high performer, but low trust. Do you want that person on your team? Do you want to put your life in their hands? Do you want them to be a member of SEAL Team 6, David? A
No.
high performer. So, but what do we do in our industries? That's who we promote because they're a high performer. They've never been taught how to lead. They don't have that trust built. They don't know how to build it, but we promote them. And a lot of times they end up being toxic leaders. We don't want that. What about that bottom right corner? The low performer, but high trust. Whether it be SEAL Team 6 or whether it be a line crew, could we teach that person another skill maybe? Could we, I guess my point is I would want that person on my team. If you're in that high trust line, I want you.
Yes,
Okay.
because that's a person that you can train. That's a person that you can go back and say,
Absolutely.
I can help you with these skills.
Absolutely
Mm.
could.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
they are that trustworthy and you know you can trust them. That top left corner, they end up being toxic leaders. The bottom right corner end up being great teammates. So you can kind of play around with the rest of the squares, and some people agree or disagree with who they would want, but I think we can all agree we don't want a low performer, low trust. We would all love that high performer, high trust if we could find them, but I would rather have a low performer, high trust versus a high performer, low trust.
Right.
Right? I mean that's but we don't do that in really any of our industries. So how do you get there, though? How do you get to that top right quadrant of that graph? Well, there are 16 skills that I put together, put in the book about what it takes to be a good leader. I'm just going to read them off. We're not going to go into detail about all of them, just a couple.
Mhm.
But the ability to effectively communicate, you got to have that. The ability to influence and the ability to inspire. So what's the difference, David, between inspiration and motivation? You know, a really
Well,
good friend of mine,
motivation is kind of fleeting, but
right?
inspiration is going to be there.
Absolutely. Motivation is like a cup of coffee. It'll
Hmm.
get you going, but it's going to wear off.
Right, right.
Inspiration will change your life. Okay. Learn. Yeah, we have to motivate people. I get that. But learn how to inspire and you can change things. All right.
Hmm.
Respect and trust. You have to learn how to give and earn both of those. Humility. Lose your ego. All right. I'll be honest with everybody. That was the hardest one for me over the years because of my background. I came out of the military, I went into law enforcement, and then I ended up in safety during a time when being a safety cop was a cool thing. And um, when I would have people trying to tell me that I wasn't doing my job correctly or I needed to do something different, that I had an ego. I didn't realize it, but I did. Once I realized that I had one and I needed to get rid of it, the the lights started coming on. So you got to lose your ego. You have to have a willingness to learn and continuously improve or evolve. You have to be a master of delegation and be able to empower others. Honesty, integrity, and ethical is number eight. Got to have those three things. You need to be flexible, okay, and ability to manage change. You've got to have a vision and be able to forwardly and strategically think. Gratitude. You have to give the team the credit, and you take in anything negative, you take it yourself and give the team all the credit. You do need to have some industry competence, whatever that industry is, whether it's a Navy SEAL, a lineman, a scaffold builder, whatever it is, you need some competency in that industry. You need to be a teacher, be able to develop other leaders. You need to be able to enthusiastically lead by example. In the last two, you need to be self-aware and you need to have empathy for others. Now, which is earnest caring for your team. Out of those 16, like I told you earlier, I fail at pretty much one of those at least every day of my life. I really do try with the ego thing, but because I reflect on myself enough and I have enough people around me that'll poke me and let me know, I know when I need to fix something. There's only one though, David, out of all the 16 I just named, that unfortunately you just cannot ever fail at that one. And that's number eight, honesty, integrity, and ethical.
Yep.
If
Yep.
you fail
Exactly.
that, I'm not saying you can't come back from that, but it's extremely hard.
Well, I think all of us have realized that at some point that it takes a long time to build trust. And it just takes that one little tiny slip up and that trust is gone.
That's
And
it.
many times you can't build that. You can never recover from that. That's really hard.
It is. And you know, the thing is, because we all make mistakes and we all make errors, if you're the type of leader and you get rid of your ego and you do make an error and you immediately own it, that helps to continue to build trust. If you make a mistake and you don't own it and you blame other people, that's when you're going to lose it.
Yep.
So it's okay to make errors as a leader. It's just not okay to not own those errors and those mistakes. But you got to have some version of those 16 things, or you're not going to be a very good leader. Um, so understand that my version of leadership comes from a book called Extreme Ownership. It was written by two Navy SEALs who I've had the pleasure of meeting. Jocko Willink and Leif Babin are two phenomenal former SEALs. They run a company called Echelon Front that does leadership training in the corporate environment. And one of their principles in the book says there's no such thing as a bad team, only bad leaders. If your team is failing, it's your fault. When you can understand that and truly grasp that, then you can actually become an extraordinary leader. I'm not pushing any one version of leadership on anyone. That's the one I liked because, again, because of my personality, my background, and everything. That's just what, I was drawn to that. But there are tons. Heck, I've got books right here. Stephen Covey. I've got a bunch of them of different leadership books. And go with who you like, but remember it's a skill and go learn it. If you never try to learn it and put your ego aside and understand you don't already know everything, you're going to fail. So, but again, there are some great books out there. Go learn how to lead other people, how to communicate. That willingness to learn that we were talking about, that is
Mhm.
continuous learning. Once you think you're there, you're not. Remember that this is a
Mhm.
lifelong thing. If we had stopped, David, back in the mid 90s with our safety evolution, we'd still be all doing behavior-based observations today and not even tracking data and so many different things that we're much, much better at today. But when we get to the point that we think that what we're doing is all we need to do and we're not willing to evolve even further, that's when everything around us starts to change and we get left behind. So
Right.
be open to new ways of doing things.
Right. I think one thing that's really helped out me a lot, and it took me a little bit of time to get there, is to look for those opportunities, seek out those opportunities so I could practice. I knew that I had to practice. I just couldn't literally say, "Oh, I just happen to be good." I
Yeah.
have to, and part of that is that you have to ask your peers, your supervisors and everything else. I
Yeah.
want more responsibility. I want to do this project. I want to. That really helps you. And I guess the one thing that's also really helped me when I sit down and I talk to my kids and like a lot of like the younger folks out there, when you think about a video game, anytime that you're going to go ahead and your character is going to kind of like level up, it's always hard there. So think about if you feel uncomfortable and you're not feeling good about stuff, that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. You're kind of learning these skills, you're kind of figuring out how things go. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get it right, but as long as you own it and say, yeah, I did the following things wrong, I'm going to go back and fix it. You're really going on a great path.
Absolutely.
You
And
know.
the absolute best leaders in the world, and we can all sit here and talk about who, political leaders go back to George Washington all the way through, 47 today.
Mhm.
We've had 47 presidents. And if you go back and say, well, this, I think Kennedy, I think Lincoln, I think whoever was a great leader. You know why they were great leaders? Because they surrounded themselves with people that are smarter than they are, and they listened to them.
Right.
Don't
Hmm.
don't be don't let that ego get in your way. Put people in place that are smarter than you. And hey, but I'm David Ayers. I have a PhD. What are they gonna, but what are they gonna teach me? See,
Hmm.
and again, I used to have that same type of ego where I already knew it. What are you going to teach me? When the first certification I ever got as a safety professional was the CSST, Construction
Hmm.
Site Safety Technician. It's done by NCCER, and it's about, well, it took me 16 weeks because we did it at night, but it's a great certification. But when I started that class, David, I had a bachelor's degree in health and safety. I'd been to combat. Come on, what are you going to teach me?
Hmm.
That's what my mindset was. And
Right.
that first week, when I made a D on that first exam, boy, did that humble me. I might want to shut my mouth and
Hmm.
open my ears a little bit. And there are times that we as leaders do know best, but always be open to at least listening to people
Hmm.
and helping them grow and become better.
Right. I think the one thing that took me a little bit of time is to ask for feedback. Because, my ego
Yeah.
didn't want to hear the feedback because sometimes it's things that you don't want to hear, you know? And so that took me a little bit of time to kind of
Yeah.
say, all right, I know it's something that I don't want to hear, but it's something that I need to hear. I need to
But
get better.
where do a lot of people go to get their feedback, though? The people that are closest to them, they're the people that are going to tell them what they want to hear. There's a thing called a 360 evaluation
Hmm.
that if it is done truly anonymously, and I do mine completely anonymous every year, and you send this evaluation to people above you, below you, and beside you. It's called a 360 evaluation,
Hmm.
and their responses are not sent to you. They are sent to a third party. You can do it. There are companies that'll do these for you, but you can have them send it to the HR admin or the finance, clerk or whatever, and
Hmm.
just have them compile the data into a spreadsheet for you with no names, no attachments of any kind. And a lot of times it it, it might hurt your feelings, but that is true, even if it's not if that's not what you intended. but someone perceived it that way, to them it's real.
Right,
And
right,
even perception is something you need to consider in being a leader. And when you do a 360 evaluation, understand that whatever they're telling you is their perception of you. And maybe you need to change their perception.
right. And also with the feedback. Now, of course, this is when you ask, of course, for that feedback. You have to kind of think in your head like you're not getting the real feedback the first couple times because
Not.
they're not really sure, like, is this guy going to explode? Is he
Yep.
going to say I'm wrong? Is he going to,
Yep.
because he just asked me for feedback. Well, he
Yep.
should be he should be listening, not fighting and arguing about stuff.
Yep.
So you don't always get it the first time. It kind of takes time because we're building that trust,
It
and that
does.
that and that trust is I'm asking for your feedback.
Yep.
I want to get better. Help me to get better. So I think it still takes folks a little time to really say, now I'm really ready to be honest.
Yep.
You
It
know?
absolutely will. And they're going to test the waters,
Oh,
right?
yep.
Just a little
Yeah,
bit. And
yep, exactly.
the first things are always going to be things like, well, he could be a better communicator, or
Yeah,
you
yep.
know what I mean? It's going to
Oh,
be the generic
real easy
things.
kind of fluffy things. Not
Exactly.
too
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
too, harsh or
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
at all.
I'm
So,
I'm lucky enough to have a team right now of about 16 safety managers and a senior safety manager that um, at least 14 of the 16 have no problem telling me,
oh,
"Hey,
awesome.
hey." Oh,
Uh-huh.
they'll snatch me up quick. But I've also been working with them for a long time, and we had to build that trust over time.
Right,
And but
right.
they did test the waters first. In the beginning, it was, well, maybe you should do this. And over time, it's gotten some of it more harsh even,
Right.
but I learn stuff from those guys and gals all the time. They teach me daily, and I try to keep my ego from getting, and that's a battle. I'm not going to say that's easy.
Yep, yep.
I have to fight it back sometimes. My senior manager Dustin has no problem. Hey, you need to check your ego, Rod, and he'll let me know.
Right,
He
right, right.
he does.
Yeah.
But again, we have that relationship where everybody knows that they can come to me, and I do. I really try hard to be a good leader. But guys, that's habit 5. That's the last of your foundational parts to the 8 habits. You do those 5 things. Stop making safety a priority. Make it safe to report everything, and make sure that everything really is getting reported, at least to the extent we can control. Make sure operations understands their part in this and that they own safety. Focus your attention on the things you can control, left of zero on the leading indicators, and get things out there to stop accidents from happening that you can see if you put that data into the correct systems. And the fifth and the last part of your foundation is stop trying to manage people.
Right.
Learn the skill of leadership. If you get those 5 things in place, anything's possible.
Exactly. You manage things, but you lead people.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rod. That was really good. Looks like we are bumping up on time. Could you take a few seconds and let folks know how they can find you out there, connect? I really enjoyed your book. I'm hoping that you're going to come out with a expanded version in the future, if that's part of your future, of
We,
course,
we,
so
we,
yeah.
I'm actually working with someone right now to co-author
Mhm,
a book on ultimately be on safety leadership,
mhm.
which is I mean, it's kind of what we've been talking about, but a much expanded version of this. So yeah, there will be a third book that's in plan.
Awesome. Very
Yeah,
good.
looking
Very
forward.
good. If
But
you could
yeah,
take a few seconds and let folks know how they can find you out there.
yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. Rod Courtney. You can see my beautiful face there. I'm the director of safety for Power Grid Services, so you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, obviously, but you can email me at rcourtney@powergridservices.com. It's all one word, all lowercase. And just reach out, and I respond to every single email. It might take me a little bit sometimes. This week I'm actually on a staycation working with my mother and my mother-in-law, getting them both moved into new places. But other than that, if I'm working, I answer my calls and emails up to about 9 o'clock. So shoot me an email. I'd love to chat with you guys.
Awesome, Rod. Awesome. And with that, I want to thank everybody for joining me. This was episode 278 with Rod Courtney.